Joining us for the weekly market wrap-up is the Informer's market guru, Mark Wenzel from Hopkins Group. Good afternoon, Mark. How have the markets performed this week and which companies have been the winners and losers?
Yeah, good to see you again, Michael. Thanks for the opportunity. We've had another good week on the markets. Generally, markets have been pretty strong, but there were some key insights that I thought would be good for the listeners, particularly around inflation from two companies. So the first one was Coles, where they've reported continued price pressure on consumers with prices across the group rising 4.3% over the quarter, and that's largely due to the higher food prices as a result of the floods in Queensland and supplier price rises. Interestingly, for Coles, you have to apply to increase your prices through Coles, and the number of applications they've had from companies to increase prices is up fivefold from before COVID, and I guess that sort of highlights the pricing pressure that the consumers are starting to see coming through the system or continue to see, and they don't really expect those price increases to slow down until the second half of next year, where hopefully, obviously, that the floods have gone through and fresh food prices and all of those sort of things are back under control. And they're also reporting that consumers are starting to change their behaviour, so perhaps not buying as much fresh fruit and vegetables, buying the canned or the tin variety, and buying cheaper cuts of meat.
And thankfully, the lettuce shortage seems to have been replaced with the egg shortage. Now, the eggs affect me. The lettuce I can do without. Now,
I was about to say it's because of your demand for the lettuce.
That's it. Now, Abri, one of Australia's largest suppliers of cement and gravel, they've made some reports.
Absolutely. So I also reported this week, and they've sort of reported a significantly fall in their profits. And they're one of Australia's largest gravel, cement, and sand and concrete providers. So again, affecting the housing industry and the building industry. So they've been unable to raise their prices fast enough to keep up with inflation. So again, sort of highlighting that there's an inflation problem in the economy, and that you would expect to see further interest rate rises and obviously continued pricing pressure on households. So, they're raising their prices for the third time this year in September, but it still hasn't been enough to keep up with the price rises of suppliers. And again, it sort of highlights a factor, again, relating to the weather, but also, again, I guess just the demand and supply chain issues that are coming through. As part of that sort of building construction area, we've also seen another major Queensland developer, Oracle, go into liquidation, which again sort of highlights the cost pressures within the industry, and particularly again in relation to employment. So Adbri have reported that they've got 100 job vacancies currently, and have just struggling to get people to do the work for them, which again sort of highlights that there's likely to be further price inflation in the building materials sector.
And obviously upward pressure on wages when they can start to ask what they want.
Hopefully for people, because again, obviously real wages have got to rise more than inflation in order to be able to get, positive growth in their wages. So you'd certainly expect that within the building sector, though, from what's been reported across a number of companies.
Now, there's been some winners and losers with the energy turmoil in Europe and the decarbonisation.
Absolutely. So we've had a report from Worley, who are an engineering firm, and they assist companies in obviously building infrastructure and working through pipelines and all of those sort of things. So they've been a major beneficiary of the turmoil in Europe. So Europe obviously is largely reliant, or parts of Europe are largely reliant on Russia for their energy, and obviously that's caused a significant problem, with the sanctions that have been put in place. And so Europe as a continent are largely trying to find alternative sources of energy, and they've come to a company like Worley who can help in the restarting of coal-fired power stations and those sort of things, and redirecting gas. So they've been a significant beneficiary, reported a doubling of their profit, and again, they expect that to continue. They're also benefiting from a bill introduced in the United States, which is a $300 billion US dollar injection to encourage companies to implement new forms of decarbonisation energy. So obviously wind, solar, hydro, and so they've been a major beneficiary of that as well. Interestingly, though, as we talked about sort of, labour issues, they don't have any problems, in terms of getting in labour. They've reported that people are very keen to work for the company because of their clean energy credentials and they say the impressive culture. So it's interesting that, different parts of the economy are performing better and attracting the right talent.
Great, literally a company with profits in the pipeline.
Absolutely. Yeah, well said. Thank you.
All right, Mark Worley from the Hopkins Group. Thanks for our market wrap up, and we'll see you next week.
Good to see you, Michael. Thank you.